Hello, everyone, and welcome to the TWSN YouTube channel. My name is Nader Asaf, and I'm here joined by my co-hosts Ted and Evan. And today we're going to be discussing UFC 280 and giving our picks on some of the biggest fights of the night. So starting off, before we get on to the main card, we're going to be giving our prediction on the featured prelim of UFC 280, which is Belal Muhammad versus Sean Brady. Big event for the welterweight division. And to start us off, I'm going to be picking Belal Muhammad. So we all both know Sean Brady, Belal Muhammad. They're both really good wrestlers. I think we can all agree on that. They've exhibited time in and time out that once they take you down to the ground, it's pretty much over for you. You've seen Belal Muhammad take down Wonder Boy. He did some work on Luque, who's known for his takedown defense. So I think ultimately that means that it's going to cancel out. I don't think that one of them has necessarily the advantage over the other. If anything, it's going to be hard to take them down, either one of them down. So I really think this becomes a striking matchup. And there, I think that Belal has the edge. Not only does he have obviously better cardio, he's known for it. I want to touch down on one fight that we saw, Sean Brady's last fight against his first real true challenge in Michael Chiesa. Michael Chiesa, he's a seasoned veteran. He's good. Not going to, spare him or just say he's trash, but he's certainly not a good striker, and he's not an out-of-this-world grappler either. He's good, but he's definitely not in, any debates for being the best grappler of all time. And he gave Sean Brady trouble. Give him 10 more seconds at the end of that third round, and I think we see a knockout. So I think that Belal, he has good striking. He exhibited against Luque and Wonder Boy, and I think that the cardio is just a huge advantage on his side. Ted, what do you think?
Well, I can't disagree. You already heard from Nader. We've heard the term striker's paradise when you get a fight like Israel and Alex Pereira. This would be a grappler's paradise. You got two guys with maybe a jab in them, not much more than that on the feet. Brady struggles with cardio. Belal pushes the pace. But at the end of the day, this fight will take place on the ground. I actually disagree. I don't think it cancels out. I think it's too much of what their game plan is based around to just go out and have a striking camp. Sean Brady's undefeated, great grappler, great submission skills. Belal Muhammad, 24 fights into his career, only one submission. So maybe if you give Belal the advantage in the wrestling, you can say that's how he's going to win, but I don't. If you look at the stats, we've got 60% takedown accuracy for Sean Brady with just 35% for Belal Muhammad. The best thing for Belal Muhammad is his takedown defense, but I think Sean Brady, we won't see the typical double leg, single leg takedowns. We'll see some outside trips, some clinch work, and I think eventually, I think Sean Brady's going to make a statement, move to 16-0, keep a 0, and submit Belal Muhammad. What do you think, Ev?
I'm going to agree more with Nader on this one. I like Belal Muhammad in this fight. I actually do think that Belal Muhammad has a little more than that jab you're referring to in his boxing arsenal. I think when it comes down to it, that takedown defense is going to play a big factor in this fight. Sean Brady, what you talked about when Michael Chiesa had him down, that looked rough for him at the end of that fight. And I don't think Belal Muhammad's going to tire out. Belal Muhammad's going to keep pushing that pace all the way through this fight. That jab that you mentioned earlier, that's going to land, but the rest of his boxing has looked good in his last few fights. And along with his wrestling, I think that makes for a dangerous opponent for Sean Brady, and I'm going to take the slight underdog here in Belal Muhammad. Moving into the main card, we've got our main card opener between Katlyn Chookagian and Manon Fiorot. I'm going with Manon Fiorot in this. Katlyn Chookagian, I feel like she's been that top of the division contender who really has no chance to beat the champion. I don't think any of us think that Katlyn Chookagian is going to beat Valentina Shevchenko. So she's kind of like a gatekeeper right now, I think, and that's what they're doing here with Manon Fiorot. They want her to fight Valentina Shevchenko. If Katlyn Chookagian can get Fiorot against the fence and just kind of work her there like she does with everyone else, then she could win this fight, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think Fiorot is going to keep this more at a distance. She's got pretty good footwork. She'll keep this away from the fence and outstrike Chookagian on her way to a decision win.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, I'm not as excited as this fight because I don't necessarily think that the odds do it enough justice when it comes to how I believe that it's going to be pretty one-sided. Katlyn Chookagian at this point in her career, I think that she's just a really, really good gatekeeper, which is kind of weird to say for someone that's I'm pretty sure ranked number 1 or 2 in the division. She's good. We're not going to say that she isn't. She's a good fighter, people like Fiorot are going to have to go through her in order to get to Valentina Shevchenko. So I think that, it could go either two ways. I think that it's going to be a 3-round striking clinic for Manon, or I think that she can get a finish. Right now in her career, she's had 2 finishes in her first 2 fights and then 2 decisions. So right now I'm leaning more of a decision because this is her best opponent so far, I would say. Chookagian is definitely more seasoned. She's more experienced. But at the same time, when someone who's lower ranked like Fiorot is minus 245 favorite, it's for a reason. Her karate is fantastic, and I think that she's just better everywhere, even on the ground. She has better takedowns per fight. She has better defense. So there's no part where I see Chookagian just beating Fiorot. Simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, it's always fun going last because they already said what I was going to say. Chookagian is the dictionary definition of a gatekeeper in combat sports. If you beat her, you get a title shot. If you don't, she fights another contender. She's been the #1 contender for her last 4 fights. She's won 4 fights in a row. She was the #1 contender, like ranked #1 in the division, going into all 4 fights. She won all of them and didn't get a title shot. She's the definition of a gatekeeper. Dana has made her that. Manon Fiorot and Chookagian, there's 2 ways this fight can go. They have similar stylistic fighting. They're strikers at a distance. They control the distance. I think Fiorot has the advantage in just activity. Like I just think she's just throwing more in a 15-minute fight than Chookagian. Obviously, Chookagian will have a height reach advantage as she always does. So I think we either see 2 things. We see Manon Fiorot really put on the gas and stop her, finish her on the feet with that karate striking. She loves those side kicks, a lot of lead leg, high kicks. Or we see like a sparring match between 2 girls that are trying to keep the distance and score points. Either way, Manon Fiorot has the advantage there. She's just better. She's just more accurate. She's just more active. She's going to land more. And this fight is going to take place on the feet. And the winner is going to move on to lose to Tyler Santos because that's where this division is at. And this fight doesn't really matter that much. But moving on to a fight that does matter in a division that does matter, we have 6th-ranked Beneil Dariush taking on 9th-ranked Mateusz Gamrot. Gamrot, a slight favorite coming in. UFC newcomer, young guy, 21-1, only lost split decision to Guram Kutateladze, one of the other upcomers in that division. Guys, we have a lightweight title fight coming up as the main event. This is a lightweight contender fight for sure. Beneil Dariush was scheduled to fight Islam Makhachev. Here we have him taking on Mateusz Gamrot, a fight he probably shouldn't have taken because Mateusz Gamrot is going to beat him everywhere. Wherever this fight plays out, Mateusz Gamrot is going to beat him. He's better on the feet. He's faster on the feet. I'll give Beneil Dariush knockout power. We've seen what he pulled that spinning back fist out of nowhere against, who was that? Draker Close. He's got knockout power for sure. But we've also seen him get knocked out by the young up-and-comer. I think this will look like his fight against Alexander, what's that guy's name? That fake glove touched him. Somebody knows who I'm talking about. Throw it, Alexander Hernandez. I think
Hernandez, yeah.
Throw it in the comments. He fake glove touched him, knocked him out. I think this is another fight where Dariush took a fight with a young up-and-coming killer in the lightweight division, and Gamrot's going to beat him. I think there's even people hate MMA math, but let's take a look at Dariush's last 3 opponents. He got his ranking from Tony Ferguson. Do I have to say more?
No, you don't.
Tony Ferguson, he got his ranking from Tony Ferguson on a 2 losing streak, who's now on, a 6 losing streak? Diego Ferreira won by split decision. Who knocked out Diego Ferreira right after that? Mateusz Gamrot. And then he did knock out Scott Holtzman, but who else did? Mateusz Gamrot. Gamrot's already done everything he's done better in a shorter amount of time. He's going to do it in less than 15 minutes. I think he's going to stop Beneil Dariush.
Yeah, I pretty much wholeheartedly agree with you on this one. I think Mateusz Gamrot has pretty much got this fight in the bag. But one thing I'd like to bring up is when I was rewatching some of those fights, I actually think that Gamrot defeated who was his loss to again? You said him earlier.
Guram Kutateladze. Yeah, a lot of people thought he won. You can give him 2 rounds.
I think Gamrot won that fight. And I don't know if he beat Petrosian in that main event. That one was close. But I think he's got the advantage here on Dariush pretty much everywhere he goes, like you said. I think he's a better wrestler. But I think Dariush poses a threat on the ground, so I think it would be smarter for him to keep it on the feet and just avoid the power shots. I think he's going to outwork him with the volume, though. I just think he's so much faster than Dariush on the feet, and that's how he's going to get this done. I think he's going to outstrike him for 3 rounds and win this fight by a decision.
Yeah, Nader, before you go real quick, I mean, you brought up his last fight, Arman Tsarukyan. I would argue Arman Tsarukyan is a better version of Beneil Dariush, so we're just going to see him have an easier fight. But Nader, I know you feel differently. Take it away, my guy.
As much as I would like to choose Gamrot, we have to remember some certain facts. Yes, the whole Dariush is a veteran argument, but it's true. Dariush has probably 10 plus more fights than Gamrot. Gamrot, as good as he is young when it comes to being a fighter in this division. And lightweights, they're all cutthroat. Let's not forget, Dariush was getting picked to beat Islam by about, I want to say 30 to 40% of the MMA community. And Islam is the guy that's facing Oliveira in 2 days for the belt. So we can't forget that just because Dariush has been on a longer layoff, let's pretend like he hasn't been training. He hasn't been recovering from his ankle, which was probably bothering him during the Tony Ferguson fight as well. And let's not remember that Dariush has the ability to be one of the best fighters in this division. He is one of the best fighters in the division. That's why he's if he wins against Gamrot, I see no reason why he can't after, Charles Oliveira or Islam fight Volk. He could be next in line. He is a worthy opponent. He has knockout power. And let's also not forget that Dariush has some of the best jiu-jitsu this division has. So as good as Gamrot is a wrestler, you can't forget that Dariush knows his way on both the feet and grappling. I think that veteran experience, because once again, Gamrot, only 5 fights. Arman Tsarukyan tested him. Arman Tsarukyan did everything he could. And it was a really close fight. Would I be mad if Arman Tsarukyan got the decision? Not necessarily, but I think Gamrot did win this fight. Did win that fight, but just barely. It was really close. And Dariush is a guy that's more experienced. He's been in this position before, and it's not like this is a gatekeeper fight. So I think Dariush gets the win. And for our next fight, we're going into one of my favorite fights of the night. This is Fiorot and Sean O'Malley. Me and Daniel, if you haven't already seen me and Daniel Almeida, we made a video on this, so make sure to go check it out and go comment there. But basically, everybody seems to be on Sean O'Malley's hype train. And as much as I love Sean O'Malley and think that he's a fantastic fighter, I think that he's in over his head with this fight. I think that Peter Yan is essentially, let's not forget, Peter Yan, there's an argument that he beats Sterling. There really is an argument. Do I think he beats Sterling? No. But could I be angry at someone that did think? Not at all. I think that this dude is essentially, he could be the champion of this division right now if those judges were thinking differently that night. So let's take Sean O'Malley, a guy that went from Pedro Munoz. He was shell-shocked in that fight. I don't care what anyone says. He showed no activity. I don't know what he was saying, but somehow he said that he was blowing out Pedro before that eye poke. It's just not true. He was shell-shocked. He threw nothing, and he reciprocates his opponents. So Peter Yan, he could be essentially, as I said, the champion of this division. So Sean's going from facing Pedro, the young Punisher. He's not young. He's actually very old and washed. To Peter Yan. That gap is absolutely insane. Let's not forget, people are always saying, Peter Yan, he takes a minute. Sean also does too. Let's not act like Sean goes out and guns a-blazing, is throwing knees and spinning back kicks. He's going to mirror what Yan does. If Yan feels out, O'Malley's going to feel out. It's that simple. And also, let's not forget, people also like to attack that height advantage. Peter Yan competitively sweeped Corey Sandhagen, who's better than Sean O'Malley, 50-45, maybe 49-46. And Sandhagen was, on a high in that point of his career. He arguably beat Dillashaw. He's up and coming. This is his real first chance after, he's rebuilt himself from that loss to Aljamain Sterling. And Yan manhandled him. Yan, that was one of the best displays, I think, one of those best chess matches you can see as an MMA fan. So I just think that people are forgetting that Peter Yan is, after that loss, he's still one of the best. Let's not forget he can also wrestle. Everyone talks about Sean O'Malley's unproven jiu-jitsu. Peter Yan can take this to the ground if he wants. I say that I don't think he gets it done in the distance, but I could definitely see a 30-27 or 29-28 for Peter Yan.
I will defend Sean O'Malley's unseen jiu-jitsu. It is nasty. But we're not about to see Sean O'Malley backpack Peter Yan for 3 rounds. Sean O'Malley has one thing going for him, and that's that this is a 3-round fight. Peter Yan's whole game is developed around a 5-round fight. His last 3-round fight.
Wait, Ted, before you continue, also, let's not forget, Yan can also work in 3. We've seen him before. You know, on the come up, he wasn't always just fighting for championship main events. He had to work his way up to be what he is today, and he can work in 3. So I just think that knowing the situation too, the fact that he's trained his whole camp, knowing that this isn't some championship fight and that he's not, you know, in the main event, I think he can still work in 3 because we've seen him do it before.
He can. Well, I mean, we saw he knocked out Uriah Faber, but it was in the 3rd round. He got a 40-year-old man coming back in out of retirement, can't finish from the first 2 rounds. I don't think Peter Yan is that dangerous in the first 2 rounds, and we're looking at a 3-round fight. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not picking Sean O'Malley, but I'm saying if Sean O'Malley has a shot, it's that first round. It's going out there and not showing what he showed against Pedro Munoz, because he didn't show Pedro Munoz anything but a soft leg check. Like he checked a few kicks, and that's about it in that fight. If he comes out and does that, he has no shot, because 2nd round, Peter Yan's just going to get to going. Peter Yan's not going to take off more than 1 round. That I'm not going to go that far. But Peter Yan does take the 1st round to take in data. So I think if O'Malley really wants to have because if let's make one thing clear: if Sean O'Malley beats Peter Yan, that is a title shot. Because that is easy money to sell.
The UFC did a genius move putting these 2 fights back to back. It's just setting up the next winner. So I think
if Gamrot had a big showing, or if Dariush or Gamrot get a finish, especially let's say it plays off for Makhachev to win and Dariush to win, they're already scheduled to fight before. I think that's an easy lock that up. So very well built fight card. We already discussed it. Some people are calling it the best on paper of all time. But this fight's a highlight of it. You got a guy in Sean O'Malley in 16 fights. He's got 11 knockouts in the bantamweight division. I mean, that's a highlight reel. And you got Peter Yan, the most technical striker in the division. I don't think anyone could argue that either. So we're going to have a fight on the feet. I just don't see the people who are picking Sean O'Malley. I don't see how he's going to do it. I think he'd have to do it in under 5 minutes, and I don't think that's going to happen. But the thing is, this is a perfect fight for Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley loses nothing. But now, if Sean O'Malley goes out there, looks terrible, and gets knocked out in 5 minutes, he probably loses stock. But if he has a competitive fight with Peter Yan, don't forget, before he lost to Aljamain Sterling, Peter Yan was being called by intelligent MMA heads the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter in the UFC, and people didn't really have a good argument against it. He looked perfect. He looked flawless. If Sean O'Malley has a competitive fight with him, he's clearly a top 5 guy in this division and should still be fighting someone ranked above him with a loss. So this was a great fight for Sean to take. We're only going to continue to see Sean on big pay-per-views like this. It's just, you just get used to it. But I do think this is a fight we see him take an L, but not one where he looks bad in. I think it'll be competitive. I think it'll be a high-paced striker's paradise. Ev, what do you think?
I have a pretty strong opinion on this, and I'm going to go with Petr Yan here. I think this is – I do like that, I think Sean O'Malley could keep this competitive. He is he's an incredible striker, and that is nothing I'm going to take away from him. But I think it's more about the level of competition that he's jumping up to. When you look at, just on the last 5 fights here, Petr Yan, he's 3-2. One of those was that illegal knee, but he was dominating that fight. I would call Petr Yan the 1B in this division. I don't even know if I really want to call him 2. I just like calling him 1B.
They should have let him just keep his interim title. When he beat Sandhagen, he should just keep that belt.
Exactly. Yeah.
Dude, Nader, you already discussed how close that second fight.
I don't like it.
You can give You can give the first round to either person, and the last 4 rounds clearly 2 and 3 to Sterling, clearly 4 and 5. That's a draw. There's 2 champions. There's 2 champions.
Yeah, I don't like.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Ev.
I really don't.
You're right. You're right, Evan. You're right. He's the champion.
This is 1B, and I mean, if you look, he knocked out Uriah Faber, but he dominated Jose Aldo in a fight that when we saw that, I was like, oh, I think Aldo might end up being done here. And then he came out and had a great run. That just proved how good of a performance that was for Jan.
Aldo quit. He made Aldo quit.
He made Aldo quit. No one does that to Aldo. He lost a disqualification to Sterling that he was dominating. And then he beat Sandhagen, and he then lost a razor-close decision to Sterling. But when you go to O'Malley, he unfortunately got that injury and lost to Chito Vera. But then he came out and beat Thomas Almeida, Chris Mutino, and Raulian Paiva. That's like nothing.
It's just crazy.
That's nothing compared to what people do.
Pedro Munoz and Raulian Paiva, in my opinion, the best bantamweight in the world right now. It's just crazy.
If you're gonna go out and fight Petr Yan, you should have dominated a fight against Pedro Munoz. You should have dominated it. And I think that's going to come out, and it's going to show that Petr Yan is still head and shoulders right now above Sean O'Malley in this fight.
Listen, commenters, when this video goes up again, throw it in the comment. I think they finished the first round in that Pedro Munoz Sean O'Malley fight, right?
Yep.
I'm pretty sure the judges gave Pedro Munoz the first
gave it to Pedro Munoz. I gave it to Pedro Munoz. Sean O'Malley did nothing.
So did I. Sean O'Malley saying, "Oh, it wasn't like you guys know what I'm talking about." Like after the fight, he came out to say that he was dominating Pedro Munoz.
Made that whole Instagram post saying he was
he faked an eye.
Undefeated.
For the record, before our CEO Malik sees this and shoots at some matches, Sean O'Malley, friend of the show, I'm a huge fan.
Love him.
I love it.
I wear your Sanibel shin guards. I love you, Shug. We'll see. Maybe I'll regret this, but friend of the show, truly.
Yeah, we love you, Sean. Don't get that mixed up.
Moving on up into the co-main event, the first title fight on this card, a guy we just mentioned, Aljamain Sterling, making his first title defense against TJ Dillashaw. I think I'm alone on this one, and I'm going to take the champion, Aljamain Sterling. I think both of you have TJ Dillashaw in this. This one was really tough, and this one could go either way, and I wouldn't be surprised. There was just the major thing that I'm coming off here with Dillashaw is coming off that injury against Sandhagen. He already looked a little slower, I thought, again in his fight against Sandhagen. I mean, I don't think we can say he dominated that fight at all. That was like
his striking was considerably
slower. It was considerably slower. I mean, he's still a threat with power, but I think the speed on it is not there as much. The head kicks that he throws did not look as clean. And then he is one of the best wrestlers, I think ever in the UFC. But Sterling with that backpack grappling, I think this could end up being another grappler's paradise if that's what this turns out to be. And I'm going like a 48-47 kind of decision with more backpack wrestling more backpack jiu-jitsu with Aljamain Sterling to defend his title here.
Flame me for this. I just don't know why people view Aljamain Sterling as such a good bantamweight. And if I'm being 100% honest with both you guys and everybody watching, when I was watching Sterling and Jan fight, I was absolutely disgusted with his striking. I was absolutely disgusted.
Oh, it's terrible.
It's so bad.
We got to draw. It's unorthodox. It's just not good.
Bad.
It's just bad. The dude threw an uppercut.
It's wasteful. It's also wasteful. He's very wasteful with his energy.
It took him 20 seconds to throw an uppercut. Like, come on. If it wasn't for that whole, backpack and pray technique, we'd see Jan defending against Dillashaw right now, which I think will happen in the near future if both my predictions are correct. But I think just, Dillashaw technically never lost his title in this division. Yes, CEO, VPO, or that's more Kamaru's, but it can apply to TJ too. The whole cheating scandal, I get it. But, when you're facing someone like Corey Sandhagen, you're going to look slow. Of course, TJ isn't in his prime anymore. We all know that. And Corey Sandhagen, one of the quickest, one of, if not top 2, top 3 striker in the division. So, of course, you're going to look slow. But, I personally had Sandhagen in that fight because I like damage a bit more than control. But at the same time, there was a part of me that was like, you know what? I can see why they gave this to Dillashaw. And I think that Aljamain Sterling, you're facing one of the best wrestlers ever to come out of the bantamweight division. And in my opinion, bantamweights have to be the most skilled fighters in the UFC. Their weight class, they have to be quick. They have to have every single tool possible if they want, unless they're a freak of nature, to win a title in this division. And I think that TJ Dillashaw exemplifies having every single tool in the bag possible to become a champion. And I think that Dillashaw, he's a better striker than Sterling. It's not even a question. Shouldn't even be a debate. And I think that his wrestling is more, as Evan said, this could be a wrestler's paradise. I think that both of them, they can end up grappling and have some mean grappling exchanges and even though people were like, oh, I want them to strike, I don't like seeing them on the grappling, it's going to be boring. If you know MMA, you too know that these two grappling is going to be a great show. But so I think that TJ Dillashaw, he cancels out the only thing that Aljamain Sterling really has to offer, and I can see him winning, a decision. Don't think he finishes Sterling. Sterling's pretty hard to finish, except if you illegally knee him. But yeah, I have TJ Dillashaw winning a decision.
Yeah, or put a knee upside his head like Marlon Moraes. Yeah, but I'm going to lean with you on this one, Nate. I think this will be probably I would feel comfortable saying this will be the closest fight. I feel actually very comfortable saying that. Not that the next fight we talk about won't be close, but I think there will be a finish in the next fight. I don't think there will be a finish in this fight. And I just think TJ Dillashaw's stop. Well, I actually completely agree with you, Evan. I think his striking, the TJ Dillashaw that surprised the world and beat Renan Barão for the title on short notice, had the best footwork, some of the best combinations into ducking roundhouses you've ever seen. I do think he's a step behind that TJ Dillashaw. Maybe he's, some doping behind because he's been clean for a few years. Whatever it is, he's slower. I mean, the guy's probably 36 years old, I think. Mm-hmm. But he is pressure. He is putting up a pace. He is pressure. He is just toughing out pointing. Sterling's game is not built to beat a guy like TJ Dillashaw. TJ Dillashaw is only going to take steps forward. He's going to beat up Sterling's legs. Sterling loves to use his legs as weapons. He throws way too many kicks. I think he'll tire Sterling out bad. And TJ Dillashaw, we know, doesn't have a problem with cardio. If he does, he has things for it. And I think I'm going opposite of Evan, 48-47 Dillashaw. It's going to be a competitive fight. He's going to give up rounds. We see Dillashaw give. If Dillashaw can't get you to the position you want, he's going to lose the round. But he's going to do it gritty and dirty, and he's going to throw tons of leg kicks. He's going to be in your face. He's going to cut you up. He's going to get cut up. And I just think Sterling wants a clean, I control the fight. I'm in control of the fight, and no one's going to be in control of the fight. Dillashaw doesn't need to be. He's a fighter. He's a scrapper, and this is going to be a big fight. But we're going to see TJ Dillashaw come back, big fashion, become the second 3-time champion of a single division, joining Randy Couture and cementing himself as the greatest 135-pounder of all time. I'm sorry, Dominic Cruz. But moving on. The fight we've all been waiting for, the fight that Abu Dhabi is going crazy for, the fight that the favelas are going crazy for. This will be in houses in Brazil that don't have a TV, but they'll somehow be watching this fight. Charles Oliveira, the number one contender, the champion, Charles Oliveira, taking on the biggest mystery, the biggest contender in all of combat sport, Islam Makhachev, the son, the cousin, whatever he is, the reign of the Nurmagomedov family, 22-1, 10+ win streak for both of them. Actually, the last time Charles lost was TKO by Paul Felder in 2017. The last time Islam lost, knocked out by Adriano Martins in 2015. I think you guys are going to have a lot to say, so I'm going to keep this short. I'm going to keep this simple. The last time Islam Makhachev, whatever his name is, fought a heavy-handed Brazilian, he went out cold. He went out cold early. It's going to happen again. Charles do Bronx and new, whatever, and still, the champion has a name again, and they'll put the belt around him. I hope he brings the Rock back, actually. I hope he brings the Stone out. Belt will be around him. First round knockout. You heard it from him first. You heard it from me second. And you'll see it Saturday. First round knockout. Islam just has a problem with those Brazilians, man.
Yeah. And I really hope I'm wrong about this because I love Charles Oliveira. But once again, I think I'm on an island here. I'm going with Islam Makhachev to win this fight and become the new champion. And that's because I think Oliveira is the champion. I'm with you guys on that. He is the champion of the lightweight division. But first I like, when you talked about the striking here, Oliveira definitely has that advantage. I think that's pretty clear. Makhachev can hold his own on the feet, but he's not the striker that Oliveira is. And Oliveira is always a submission threat. But I think the biggest thing that is in favor of Makhachev here is just this guy's pure strength. I mean, he's exactly like how Khabib was in that sense. And we haven't really seen Oliveira fight someone like that on this run. He had Poirier and he had Chandler, who both wanted to mix it up with him, really, and he was able to find, and Gaethje. Those guys are there to, they want to scrap. And I don't know if Makhachev's going to come out and want to scrap. I think he's going to want to be a weighted blanket on him. And if that's what happened, and that's kind of how I see this fight playing out overall. I think Oliveira is going to have a moment where he gets the crowd really into it, knocks down Makhachev. But I see this kind of going into like the later depths of the rounds here, like a 4 or 5 round war. And one thing I want to bring up, Oliveira, as good of a submission threat as he is not impossible to submit himself. He's been submitted multiple times in his career, and with that strength advantage that Makhachev has, I could really see him, having like a 2-2 split going into round 4, and having that, just kind of laying on him, grinding him out, and finding a home for like a Kimura armbar style thing and get a strength submission and win this fight. And that's kind of how I see this playing out. But I'll send it to you, Nader, for this.
Guys, if you know me, I was one of the original conductors of the Makhachev Mafia hype train. I was one of those guys that was on Islam saying he's going to be the champion before people even knew who he was. But today, that changes. Charles Oliveira is the champion. It's as simple as that. If you think that this is a vacant lightweight title fight, you're crazy and you shouldn't be able to watch MMA. Charles Oliveira is the champion, and he's defending his belt. There's just a couple of points I want to go across. You guys made some really great points, especially Ted and Evan. I love that counter-argued that, playing devil's advocate, because, as good as Charles Oliveira is, you got to remember, Islam Makhachev is right there, in my opinion. So when you really think about it, people think, oh, Islam Makhachev, he could just go get guard and he can just stay on, Charles Oliveira and really dominate him. But it's frankly the exact opposite. People forget that Charles Oliveira has one of, if not the best offensive guard ever. He's so good that he pulls guard. You don't really see many people doing that. You only see Paul Craig and you see Charles Oliveira. Anyone else does that in the UFC, arguably, besides maybe Brian Ortega.
Because they're hurt.
Well, I mean, yeah, but then at the same time, nobody that just pulls guard is going to, be clueless there.
I'm saying if anyone's pulling guard that's not someone you named, it's because they almost got knocked out. They're the only people that do it.
Essentially.
Offensively.
Exactly. Well, Oliveira's a madman on the ground. He's the best submission artist of all time. He's one of the greatest Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioners to ever touch down on this earth. That's crazy to think about. That Charles Oliveira is just one of the best Brazilian jiu-jitsu artists ever. And when you think about it, people saying that Islam's just going to lay and pray, he's going to use his guard. You can't forget that Charles, it's not easy to take down. He's, people assume that Islam is just going to get him down and be able to work. Who says he even gets him down in the first place? It's as simple as that. And when you look at the striking, it's Charles. It's in Charles' favor. Islam, he's a nice striker, I'll admit. He has a nice jab. He's better than Khabib was at striking, in my opinion. Khabib has more of that, like tenacity to him, that aggressiveness. Islam is more calm and calculated, but that also goes around with him being a better striker. And, we've seen Javier Mendez say that Islam focuses more on striking, and we all know what he can do on the ground. But at the same time, Charles Oliveira, he's really just been able to flip around his career, complete 180, become as arguably, now, I'm not going to say he's as good of a striker as he is as submission artist because he is the best submission artist of all time. But he's a pretty good striker. If he was just like, and that's crazy to say when you think about it, because as good of a striker as he is, he's arguably one of the best in the division, the lightweight, in my opinion, one of the few shark tanks that the UFC has. I think that lightweight, featherweight, and bantamweight, those three are really the three shark tanks. He's even better at grappling, which is just crazy to think about. And lastly, Islam, this is a huge step up, just like Sean O'Malley and Piotr Jan. This is a really big step up. His last fight was against Bobby Green. I love Bobby Green, but that's an unranked fighter. He beat Drew Dober. He beat, Thiago Moises.
Thiago Moises.
Yeah. And, those three guys, they're good. Don't get me wrong. They're some of the best that the UFC has when it comes to, unranked lightweights. Those guys, at least I think actually that's not as true as I think about it because you still got guys like Garam out there. But, those are three really solid unranked lightweights that, they're nice names to have on your resume, no doubt. But I just think that Islam is rushing it. And if I'm as big of an Islam fan as I am, if I'm choosing Charles, it should tell you guys everything about this Saturday's main event.
Listen, here's what it comes down to. Charles Oliveira got here finishing Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler, and Dustin Poirier. Islam Makhachev got here finishing Bobby Green and Dan Hooker. And the UFC gave him those fights to get here. Because you throw a striker in there, you throw a guy like Dan Hooker in there who's terrified for his butt to touch the mat. And what do you get? You get a guy on his back foot afraid of the takedown. And that's what's made Islam Makhachev look so dominant. You get a decent grappler in there with him in Thiago Moises. And maybe Thiago Moises is more than a decent grappler. He's a true Brazilian jiu-jitsu specialist. But in MMA, it all changes when you get in the octagon. In MMA, Thiago Moises is a win-loss, up-and-down fighter. But he's the best grappler Makhachev has faced. He's
also,
nowhere
Ted,
near.
That Dan Hooker fight was so irrelevant that it completely slipped my mind. So when I was watching those guys, like
you literally forgot that fight happened because it shouldn't. That shouldn't be a fight before a title fight. But anyways, Makhachev, where was I? Yeah. He's getting guys that are on their back foot the whole fight. Charles Oliveira is going to walk him down and put stones on his jaw. Like, you're not fighting Dan Hooker, you're not fighting Bobby Green, you're fighting a guy that not only is he not afraid to be taken down by you, he's going to welcome it. He's going to put you in a submission hold. He's going to transition from that submission hold to the top. And now what? You take him down and he's on top. You don't take him down and he's punching your face in. It's going to show that Islam Makhachev got the Khabib treatment from the UFC. He could possibly be a future champion. I am not discounting Islam Makhachev. I'm just discounting his road to the title and his skill set against a guy like Charles Oliveira. You talked about how good his striking has gotten. We're talking about a guy that tapped to strikes from Paul Felder in 2017 that now looks like he has the best Muay Thai in the division next to Rafael Fiziev. I mean, what they're doing in that shootbox gym is insane. Also, look at the size of the guy. He's bulked up. Massive. He's massive. He's huge. So I don't even know. The strength of Islam Makhachev might have mattered when we're talking about 45-pound Charles Oliveira, but we're looking at Charles Oliveira that looks like he could fight at 170.
It's scary how big he gets. He looks so pretty in the cage. And then it's crazy.
And I'm sticking with it. First of all, it's like plus 500. So if you want to prop for this, first round knockout, Charles Oliveira, he told you he's going to do it. He told you. And when has he been wrong? He told you he's going to finish Gaethje. He told you he was going to finish Poirier. He told you he was going to finish Chandler. You doubted him every time. Whoever's listening thinks, oh, am I talking? Yes, I'm talking to you. You doubted him every single time.
Every time.
He finished him. He finished him in under 3 rounds. And he's going to finish him. And then he's going to fight the pound-for-pound fighter in the world. And it will be the best fight. That will be the most skilled fight we've ever seen. And that's what we have to talk about for the last minute of this show. I think both guys are going to make weight tomorrow. But hats off to Alex Volkanovski. Alex Volkanovski is the best champion in sport right now. He's probably going to weigh in tomorrow too, regardless, just to prove that he was going to be on weight for this fight. And he was ready. and I don't want to get into this because I just hyped up my guy for so long, but I think Alex Volkanovski could come up to 155 and beat either of these guys. But we'll see about that later. And then listen, the best thing that could happen in this sport right now is Charles Oliveira beats Islam Makhachev the way he says in the first round, knockout, and then does another thing he says. He says he's going to fight him at 55, that is Alex Volkanovski, and then go back down to 45 and fight him there too. He's going to do
getting me
AJ
excited.
McKee. I hope I'm getting everyone excited. AJ McKee, that bum over in Bellator, said he was going to do that to Fiorot, and he didn't. Charles Oliveira is going to do that. I'm telling you. Charles Oliveira is going to cement himself after what? What's his record? 30. We're past 40 fights into his career.
33-8.
33-8. And after all that time, he is finally going to cement himself as, I believe, maybe quite possibly, if he does it, the greatest mixed martial artist we've ever seen. And I think if he beats Volkanovski twice and Islam Makhachev, the only thing that could happen is Khabib would have to come back.
I think
we don't even have the time to get into that. But
honestly, Ted, I think that if whoever comes out as the victor, let's say Charles Oliveira wins on Saturday, whoever comes out as the victor on that little Oliveira Volkanovski rivalry that we see, that's going to be the pound for pound GOAT.
Yes,
it's as simple as that. No matter how many losses Oliveira had before, no matter Volkanovski's history, that will be the most skilled mixed martial artist to ever step foot and the best to ever do it.
We're going to say all this, and then John Jones comes back and knocks out Francis Ngannou, and we're like, sorry, Vol.
Oh, we thought.
But anyways, guys, I want to close it out. Great show. Thank you, Evan. Thank you, Nader, for coming. If you don't follow them, follow them. If you don't follow me, follow me. If you don't follow TWSN, follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Instagram. Follow this YouTube channel. Subscribe. Hit that like button. Turn post notifications on. We're not just MMA guys. NFL is gearing up. But what we are good at in MMA and in NFL is making you guys a little money. Now, I'll tell you right now, my best bets will come out for free tomorrow on our website. A little article. I'll give you a couple picks. But the real man, we all know it's our CEO, Malik Wright, the W in TWSN. I'm going to butcher his record. He's about 3-for-1. He's, I think, 90-30 on the year on UFC bets.
Which is crazy. Which is insane.
Yeah, 3-1. I mean, that's guys. Subscribe
in a
to
sport where it takes one punch to change everything, Malik is the man. It's just absolutely crazy to see how well he's done.
And then lastly but not least, if you want to maybe watch this amazing card with me and Malik, we will be at Kitty's Sports Bar in downtown Cincinnati tomorrow or Saturday. Yeah, you'll see this tomorrow, Saturday. 10 a.m. this card starts. If you didn't know that, if you're a casual and you didn't know, this fight's in Abu Dhabi. This fight's in some place you'll never be, Etihad Arena. Your mom can't afford it. I'm telling you. But anyways, 10 a.m. sharp. Be there. Free food, free drinks, free everything. They're going to give stuff away. I heard Malik talking about AirPods. I can't afford AirPods. Forget Etihad Arena. I can't afford AirPods. I'm going just for the AirPods. I forget about the fights. There's free food, free drinks, and possibly free AirPods. Come see us. UFC 280. Kitty Sports Bar. TWSN. Come on. It's time. Bruce Buffer. Peace out, guys.